Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the first edition of the International Conference on Artificial Intelligence and Industrial Applications. My name is Ibtisam el-Hassani, and I am the chair of this plenary section. We are all excited to see you, dear professors, students, and speakers. So blockchain is probably best known for its use in the financial industry, especially with regards to cryptocurrencies. However, blockchain technology has a wide variety of potential uses, including disaster recovery. And today, we will learn about how can we use blockchain for disaster prevention and recovery with Professor Horst Rebermeyer. So Dr. Horst Rebermeyer is a professor and head of the Department of International Management Module University, Vienna in Austria. He participated in various EU programs and worked for the European Technology Platform Alliance for Logistic Innovation for Cooperation in Europe. His research interests include application of blockchain and distributed ledger technology. Thank you, Professor, for being here with us in this event, and we are all ears.
Thank you, Ms. Hassani. Thank you for having me. And I also want to thank Mr. Anas Sharafi for inviting me. First, when I got this invitation, I was a little bit skeptical because I figured out it's all an AI conference, and I have to admit, I'm not really an expert in AI. I started blockchain research a couple of years ago, and it was before the big hype, you know. Everybody knows about what happened to Bitcoin in 2017. It was going up, and then we had all those ICOs, initial coin offerings, and many of them turned out to be a fraud. But I started the bandwagon, I started blockchain research before that. And so what I did so far, I edited a couple of books. You can see them here. I'm also working together with the industry. I'm really happy that I'm currently mentoring a very interesting startup project in the Blockpool EU-funded project. They are trading energy certificates, so they are creating a more sustainable environment. And I'm also working together with researchers from all over the world. And here we have one example on the slide. It's the UCL Center for Blockchain Technologies in London. I've also published a couple of papers in different communities about blockchain research and what we maybe can expect in the future. And again, initially I was a little bit skeptical about joining an AI conference because I thought you might be interested more in AI topics. And so I tried to find the link between blockchain and AI when it comes to disaster management. And I think there's a huge potential out there. So for all of you PhD students looking for an interesting topic, and for all of those professors who want to do academic research that is relevant, I think if we put together AI and blockchain for disaster relief and recovery, that could be really something that has a huge impact in the future. I'm not going into the details when it comes to blockchain because that would take too much time. I'm trying to stay within my 30 minutes, but I just wanted to point out to you what blockchain is. We are talking about a distributed ledger here. You can think about a distributed database, so you have the same data on more than one place. And for me, it's important to point out there are many different types of blockchains around. So there's not one single blockchain. You can have public and permissionless solutions like in Bitcoin. That means everybody can join the network, and then everybody can be a miner. I know that Bitcoin, as far as I know, is illegal in Morocco. It's legal in Austria. So it depends on the legal situation. But that's one type of blockchain. But you can have completely different types. You can have so-called private and permissioned blockchains, and they're very different from a public and permissionless. In this kind of blockchain, you also have a distributed database, but you have a very dedicated consortium that is able to manage it. So you have different governance structures. And if we open up the field even more, we talk about distributed ledgers. So that means we're not even talking about chains of data anymore that are connected, because blockchain is literally a chain of transactions, and they're connected by putting the hash of the previous block in the next one. But many of those solutions do not really work out if you have lots of data, for example, for the Internet of Things. And so there are solutions out there that do not even look like a chain anymore. But in many cases, we call this blockchain. So for me today, it's more like a black box. But if you're reporting research on blockchain, you need to make it clear what kind of technology you're referring to. And what I also did for this presentation, you can see I also looked a little bit of the evolution of AI and blockchain. And this is a very interesting paper from Professor Jasnitsky. And he started in the year 1270 with Raymond Lully, so a long time back. But I would also say the middle of the 20th century, you have, Norbert Wiener and Shannon, Turing, Kellogg, all those big names, you know them. But for me, it's interesting to point out that in between we had those AI winters, meaning times where AI was not so popular for getting funding and things like that. And then there was some kind of increased interest, and interest was going down again. And now we are in the year 2020, and my prediction would be interest will go up because now we have the technology in place and we have the performance computers. Now AI is taking off, and that's why I appreciate that you organize a conference like that. What about blockchain? Everything is way more condensed, because it came into public attention in the middle of the 2010s. So now we're not talking about 50 or 70 years or something like that. We're talking about 5 years. And the same thing happened. In the beginning, many people said blockchain is the silver bullet. It's the solution for all the problems we have. And then we had the ICO boom and the Bitcoin hype. And for 1 or 2 years, blockchain was bad. No funding. It was the blockchain winter. And now everything is taking off again. And I think we're back to normal now. And we can produce solutions that provide some value for the industry and provide some value for humanity. So I did also a little bit of research on some kind of predictions how the market will be in 10 years for both. I call them technologies now. And according to PwC in 2030, the total market will be 15.7 trillion. And according to the Gartner Group, blockchain contribution will be 3.1 trillion. So I'm just checking if everything's fine. If we have some technical issues, please let me know in the chat. It looks good because I had some sound in my earphones. I'm not sure if we have some connection issues. So just very.
It's okay. We can hear you perfectly.
Okay, this is great because I just want to avoid a situation where I'm just talking to my computer screen. Okay. Thank you. I just some weird sounds in my headphone, but that's a situation we have to deal with. So I did a little bit of research and see how blockchain and AI can help each other because, of course, they're not competing technologies. Blockchain is more like a distributed ledger, storing data in an immutable way. And AI, I don't need to tell you what AI can do with the data. So blockchain, by sharing data, it increases accessibility, and I will come back later to that. Blockchain can help with data encryption. You can also trace data because it's being stored in an immutable way. You cannot change it later on. So you have this audit trail. And a very important issue is also blockchain can help you to share the benefits of a solution. So if you provide some kind of solution for the industry, let's say AI solution, and you're getting micropayments, that would be really hard to do with some kind of intermediary. With blockchain, you can provide remuneration. So I think those technologies together, they are really, really big. Let's talk about disasters for a moment. Again, it's not a really nice topic, but a super important one. And on the one hand, we have those natural disasters. And of course, you can argue that some of them might be caused by humans. We have climate change. And if you have a fire like that, it can be arson. So it could be humans that started it. But all in all, I would say those disasters I call natural disaster, hurricanes, tornadoes, floodings, and they're becoming more and more important. And unfortunately, the impact is getting bigger and bigger. And then, of course, we have those man-made disasters. And you all remember this year, there was this huge blast in Lebanon, 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate. And the question is, could it have been avoided? Yes, of course. I mean, it was stored improperly. But this is something that's way more common, but it's just not that something that on that scale happens so often. This is a picture that was taken 20 years ago in the Netherlands. It was a fireworks company that blew up. And we have cases like that, I would say, on a daily basis, but on a much smaller scale, some minor machine breakdowns. So when I'm talking about disasters today, you can scale it up or scale it down as you like. So if you have a company, a factory, and a machine breaks down, it's a small disaster, but you can apply the same principles that we use for the big disasters. So it's a huge topic. And again, I'm starting with AI before I come to my main topic, which is blockchain, because it was interesting for me to see what kind of new solutions we have out there. And just for those of you who are interested in AI and disasters, just check this out. It's amazing what's apparently being done. Research from Google and Harvard, how to predict disasters coming, even those that are natural disasters, like, for example, volcanic eruptions. I always thought there's no way you can predict a volcanic eruption, but nowadays they're using AI to analyze the ash that's coming down so they can get a better feeling when the next eruption is going to be. And they're doing this for all kinds of disasters, ranging from earthquakes, floods, volcanoes, hurricanes. And I think floods and hurricanes, in these cases, it's a little bit easier because you have a longer warning time, but this is all that AI can do now to give us more time to prepare for disaster. And in case a disaster has happened, I also found some very interesting applications out there. You know, first of all, you can detect disasters by using drones, for example, going over the landscape, taking pictures, and AI is predicting if something unusual has happened, if a disaster has happened, just by taking this information. And of course, also making some kind of assessment. How big was the disaster? Here we have avalanches. So what about the region? What about, I don't know, potential warehouses, potential humans, potential streets, everything that has been affected? This is AI. And now I'm coming to putting those two together. You know, on the right side, you can see blockchain. And this is just a sketch of mine. And I need to spend more time to do this a little bit more detail, but I would say, very roughly speaking, AI is very good in predicting disasters. And this can lead, if you have the data on the blockchain, and I'm going to show you in a second what blockchain can do, to prevention and reduction of disasters. AI, as I've told you, can be used to detect disasters and assess the impact. And all together, you know, all this information taken together can help to prevent it, or if a disaster has already happened, then reduce its impact or provide some relief for those that were affected. And now I'm going to report about a case study I did with 3 companies that are actually providing solutions. You know, if you go on the internet or if you read some kind of newspaper articles, you will find a lot of what blockchain can do. I told you, 2015, blockchain is the silver bullet for everything. But the very moment you talk to companies or you're reaching out to them, you will find there are not so many solutions around that are up and running. And so I was very lucky to find 3 companies who have something in place, who build solutions that can be used for disaster reduction and relief. The first one is called Chainyard. It's a blockchain consulting company. They have a lot of experience with the technology. And they provided a solution for a non-governmental organization called Miracle. Miracle is an organization that mainly has...
Welcome again, Professor. We can't hear you. Could you activate the microphone, please?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, now.
Oh, I finished my presentation. Sorry, when did you lose me?
Oh, in the beginning.
No.
Perhaps I will show you the slide.
Oh, bummer. I did my full presentation.
Okay, I see.
I just got 1 minute ago, I got an email from Anas telling me I didn't realize that I was gone. So you lost me in the very beginning?
Yes, after I guess after 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh boy.
I don't know if you do have time to.
Oh, I would have time. I'm just not. I know that the next session is going to start at 11 o'clock, but would you be interested in, should I do it again?
Of course.
Okay. Can you see my presentation now?
No, we can't.
Okay. Present now. Wait a second. Your entire screen, a window. I think that's the one. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
So you lost me in the very beginning.
No, no, not in the very
So,
beginning. You spoke about the intelligent artificial and how you can go ahead, please.
uh-huh.
Yes, after, and you have an
This one also.
blog where you present how. Yes, here.
Oh, you lost me here. Okay. Yeah, I'm just checking how I could figure out if I lose the connection again. So I'm going to start here again.
Yes, please. Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah, you're welcome. I think I need to watch the camera. I have a green light on the camera. That could be an indicator. And I'm also going to open my email account. So if for some reason I'll be gone again, then send me an email. But I have a very small window on my screen seeing myself. So that might also be an indicator. So
Okay.
now, just to be on the safe side, you can see my presentation and you can see me
Yes.
waving. Okay,
Perfect.
so I'm going to pick up here again. Sorry for the interruption, but on the other hand, I have to say that we are lucky nowadays that we have all this technology in place. You know, we have the lockdown, and I, I did a presentation last week ago in China and 2 weeks ago in Ireland. So we have to be really grateful for the technology. So what you can see on this slide is, for me, it's a kind of marriage between AI and blockchain. And of course, it's not a very strict, it's not a very rigorous model, but I figured out AI can do a lot to predict disasters, to detect them, and to assess the total impact. And blockchain, with all the data capabilities it has, can use the information from AI to prevent disasters, to reduce them, and to provide some relief in case they have happened. So I see a huge potential here. And by the way, I did some research before I did this presentation in an academic database. I was searching for blockchain, AI, and disaster, and I only found one academic paper, which does not mean that there are not more around, but it just signals there's a huge potential. And now I'm telling you about the case study that I did with 3 companies. The first company is called Chainyard. It's a blockchain consulting company, and they provided a disaster relief solution for a non-governmental company that's called Miracle Relief Collaboration League. They're mainly working on disasters like floods and floodings. So if a flood happens, usually you have a great amount of turmoil, and you have 3 stakeholder groups: those who need help, those who are donating something, and those who actually volunteering to help people. And you need to coordinate this help in a way. And this is why blockchain comes in. You know, with blockchain, you have a shared database that gives you access to data in real time. And this Miracle company was using a Microsoft Access database before that, and then they approached Chainyard and we're asking them, could you help us with a blockchain solution? And they did it. So that's my first case study. The second one is from World Vision Nepal. Actually, that's a tech unit of World Vision, and they came up with a solution that's called Sika. And you will find more information on that on the internet. The idea is in Nepal, they have mostly to do with earthquakes. The last big earthquake was in 2015. And if you have an earthquake, you have a lot of destruction, and you need to make sure that people getting relief. And so what they created, they have some kind of solution in place where they can share digital assets. I think it's like Bitcoin, but it's not Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is also illegal in Nepal, but it's like a Bitcoin solution. Just imagine you have this earthquake, and then you have people out there, and they need to get some vouchers. And of course, it would be very tedious to give them the vouchers, and then you have issues of corruption and maybe not fair distribution. So with a blockchain-based solution, you can easily share those digital assets. It's like sending them Bitcoin, and they then can use it to get the goods they need. The third company is called Mynxg, and that's a German-based company. They have a huge experience in the chemical industry. And that's why I'm telling you, when I'm talking about disaster, it could be anything. It could be a huge earthquake, but it could be also machinery breakdown in the industry, because I know this conference is a lot about industrial applications, but this could be a minor disaster. And the same technology that you have in place for avoiding huge disasters, you can use for supervising machinery, for example. And this company, Mynxg, they provide IoT solutions for the chemical industry mainly. But when the coronavirus came up, COVID-19, they created an application on your smartphone to track and trace people with corona infections. The one reason why it didn't work out because of policy implications. So the government didn't want a solution, but they created, based on the knowledge they have, a solution for corona tracing using the same technology they already use for supervising machinery. And what I did, I started with, I started with 3 main research questions. And the first question was, why do you deploy blockchain technologies? And the second question is mostly the most important one when it comes to blockchain. Why do you need a blockchain? You know, why can't you use a normal centralized database? And the final question, the third one, was what kind of contingency factors need to be in place that you have a fully functioning solution? So contingency factors, it could be a legal situation, or it could be some kind of educated people or things like that. And so what I did, I split up those 3 research questions. Number 1 was, what's the reason for using a blockchain? And here you can see the motivation was either some kind of social commitment, you know, we have the technology and we want to help people, or it was, in most cases, performance improvement. You know, in the old days, you needed to go out and distribute the vouchers to people manually. And now with blockchain, you just send them some kind of data and they immediately have it. And that's true for all of the solutions I'm showing you here. You get better performance. It's faster, it's more efficient. The second block here is information exchange and collaboration. Blockchain is all about information. It's about data sharing. It's about having access to information in real time. It's about auditability. And you can also create trust and security. You know, the company from Germany, Mynxg, they are providing solutions for the chemical industry where they make sure that only people who are authorized are allowed to enter a specific region of the company, of the, let's say, the manufacturing plant. But if something happens, you can change these permissions. So normally a fire worker might not be allowed to enter the factory because it's a secluded area. But if a fire happens, then you can immediately give permissions to fire workers. And you can take the same technology, and they're currently working on an idea with a skiing area in Austria where you have skiers going down a mountain, and let's say an avalanche happens. And if this is the case, then the information about the location of the skiers will be shared with the rescue teams. So if nothing happens, this information is confidential. But if an avalanche goes down, then this information is being shared automatically. This is an event that triggers something. And finally, management of disaster-related information. During the disaster, it's important that you spread data most effectively and efficiently. And after the disaster, it's very important that you're able to audit the data. But that was my first question. The second question again was, why do you need blockchain? That's one thing I'm always asking companies, because I really want to make sure that we need blockchain. And if you go back 2 or 3 years ago, you will find many newspaper articles telling you blockchain is not necessary. There are no real use cases around. But all the examples I'm just showing you, they are about blockchain technology. So you need it for decentralization. Here you have a network. It's distributed. People are sharing the same data. If you take out one node, or if one node goes down, it does not matter. The whole network stays fully informed. Everybody has the full amount of information. Hopefully it's available to all of those who are entitled to access it. You can create networks that have a certain amount of anonymity or pseudonymity, so people do not know exactly who you are. I just got a message. Oh, okay. And here I also have platform independence. Just an example from Nepal. They developed a blockchain solution on Ethereum, but then Ethereum was illegal, or turned out to be illegal in Nepal because of cryptocurrency Ether. So they took their solution. Of course, they needed to modify it a little bit, but the functionality was the same, and deployed it on a different platform. And yeah, so now let's talk a little bit about contingency factors. Some things that need to be in place so you have a working solution. You need to have support from the state. If the state says on a from a legal perspective, it's not possible for you to use a certain type of blockchain. Of course, you can find a different solution, or if it's absolutely not possible at all, then this would be a showstopper. But luckily, in all those cases I've told you about, nothing was the case here. Then you also have some contingency factors on individual levels, mostly about how educated people are. You know, here you have a case, or here you have a picture from users of the Zika solution in Nepal, and you can see they do not have smartphones, but regular cell phones, because those guys in Nepal, they came up with a solution where you don't even need a smartphone. It's very easy to use for those who are victims of an earthquake to get those tokens. You just need to send them SMS. And finally, you have the technology in place. So if everything breaks down, if you don't have any communication infrastructure in place, that would also be a showstopper. But luckily, that's not the case too often, because nowadays you can even have satellite communication and things like that. So I put it all together, and I'm not going to discuss the whole model now in much detail, but this is basically what I have in my forthcoming paper. If anyone is interested in a paper, I can also send it to you, but it's still under research, so please keep it confidential. Here on the left, I have the motivation, the use cases. Why do you want, or what do you want to make with the technology? In the middle, I have those blockchain properties. Why do you need blockchain to have a solution like that? And finally, I have all those contingency factors as moderating variables that need to be in place to have a fully functioning solution. And finally, I hope that all these factors taken together can help to create solutions that can prevent disasters or create disaster relief. And on the final slide, I put AI in the picture, and this is something I have not done yet, you know, and I would be really interested in reaching out to the AI community and to encourage you to do research on that and maybe to work together with me, because every point in the chain or every point in the model here where data and information comes into play, this might be also interesting for AI, because the data on the blockchain, that's not really a core blockchain research topic. Blockchain is more about what to do with the data, but the quality of the data that comes in, this is AI, and I see a huge potential here. So to wrap it up, here's my final slide, my outlook. First of all, I have to say that I believe disaster management will become more important. First of all, unfortunately, we have more disaster cases, but from an industry perspective, we also have more complex value networks. You have all these supply chains with so many kind of companies contributing. So if something breaks down in one part of the supply chain, it might be the case that the whole network will be affected. The second conclusion is that AI and blockchain might be a really fruitful combination in the future. And of course, you can combine it with the Internet of Things for data collection. And so this brings me to my final statement, saying there's a lot of opportunities for rigorous research where academia comes in to provide some value for the industry and to come up with solutions together that can help to provide some benefits in case a disaster happens. And this concludes my presentation. On the slide, on the last one, you have my email address. I'm easy to find. I'm the only one working in academia with that kind of name. And if you like, you can also follow me on ResearchGate. And yeah, if you have any questions right now, then please feel free to talk to me. I'm stopping my presentation now. Maybe the screen gets up. Thank you. So I hope now you were able to hear everything, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much for this presentation and for the fascinating subject. And I really liked how we can use these technologies not only for making profits, but also for helping people.
It's everything. Yeah, you can use the same technology that you can deploy in a company to make profit by, for example, keeping machinery from breaking down, and help people. You can do the same thing with the same technology. Very good point. Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for contextualizing your topic and bringing IA in your side. And I hope it will be a good thing for researcher, and you can collaborate together to give something better and to improve your research.
I hope so too. And honestly, you know, I had this conversation, and I was not sure if it's the right topic for your conference. So I did the research on AI, and this is something that's going to be big, because I know a couple of years ago people were talking about buzzwords, saying, "Oh, we have blockchain, AI, and IoT, all buzzwords." But I think there's more than that, and I'm more than happy to reach out to the AI community, because I have my expertise in blockchain. But just the past couple of days, the research I did, that was amazing what AI can do. And I think working together with different communities, that might be a huge opportunity for all of us.
Exactly. So there is any question for the attendees? If there is any question, please.
I just have one question in the chat. Could AI and blockchain predict future pandemic issues like COVID-19? First of all, I think when it comes to prediction, that's AI. You know, blockchain is more the database and what you can do with this information. Of course, yeah, thinking about it, with blockchain, you can store or gather data from different places automatically, and then you can share this information, make it accessible, and then using AI to make predictions about pandemic. I would say yes, because I think that's something they're doing right now, observing some kind of weird patterns. And again, that's your area, that's AI, and then making predictions about what that could be. It's like having a drone going over an area and saying, oh, this is a plane that has crashed down, that looks kind of unusual. And I think with pandemics in the future, you use AI, and then you have some weird patterns. If we share the data, let's say if we share medical data from somewhere over the world, and then suddenly AI pops up, wait a second, you have a very weird pattern in some case of the world. I think it would be possible, but more research needs to be done.
Okay, thank you. We have some raised hands. Professor Enes?
Dear Prof. Horace, thank you so much for delivering to us such as excellent and stimulating presentation.
Thank you for having me. You were the one who invited me. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As you know, in recent weeks, not one but two companies have announced COVID-19 vaccines with efficiency rates of more than 90%. The key difference between the two vaccines from pharma companies Moderna and Pfizer is the condition in which they must be stored. For long-term freezing, Moderna vaccine requires a temperature of minus 20 Celsius. Pfizer vaccine, on the other hand, requires a much colder environment, minus 70 Celsius degrees, and can keep only up to 5 days in regular refrigeration. It's very critical to keep the vaccines stored properly in order to maintain their efficacy. My question, how to use blockchain to monitor and verify proper storage of the vaccine?
Okay, thank you for the question. Thankfully, I think that's one that I can answer, because in the beginning I was a little bit afraid, because I'm not a medical doctor. I know about these vaccines and how cold you need to store them. And so I couldn't answer how effective they are, but using blockchain for monitoring the storage, that's a question I think I can answer. I even have a former PhD student of mine, 10 or 15 years ago. He started a company that is monitoring pharmaceutical articles along the supply chain. You know, they can, for example, track and trace if you have some kind of stuff and the temperature goes up in a truck, then everything is being recorded. You know, or if there is the environment is too shaky, you just need to have sensors. Very easy. You have sensors, and then you have this data about, was the temperature okay, or was it too shaky, or things like that. But now blockchain comes in. If you store this information on a blockchain, you can trust it, because just imagine you have information. Oh, some kind of supply chain was broken. It was too warm. It's a centralized database. You can tamper around with that. You can modify that information, but it's shared. Then you can audit it easily, and then you cannot modify it anymore. So blockchain is the trust machine in this sense. It's not monitoring the data. That's what IoT is doing, but it's recording the data. And if you know that it's being recorded at specific points in time, and then you cannot change it anymore. Then you can trust the data, and then you can know the vaccine was not stored too warm. So that would be the task of blockchain, trust in data.
Thank you. So, Kamar, Kamar, yes.
Do you hear me?
Yes, yes, you can.
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Thank you, Professor, for your presentation. I have one question. So in this turbulent environment, blockchain will create both opportunities and challenges for disaster prevention. But how can the blockchain and the related disruptive technologies enable resilience to mitigate the impact of disasters?
Let's go back to the one example from Germany, the chemical factory. You know, they have the blockchain solution in place in factories, and it's constantly monitoring data and making sure that no critical values are reached. And I was asking them, could you tell me of some kind of disasters in the chemical industries that have happened or that you avoided? And they told me, oh no, we cannot give you this information because we don't have it themselves, because they're just providing this information and they don't even know in which cases their solution helped avoid a disaster. You know, the idea is you have all this machinery. Let's take the best case. You have this machinery, something breaks down, or you're getting close to a breakdown. You're getting this information. It's being stored. You're getting immediate alerts. The people are coming in and they're fixing it, and nothing happens at all. That's the best case. Let's say you have a breakdown, and then immediately it triggers some kind of action. That would be the second case. So that would be examples where you can mitigate disaster. And they told me some very interesting use cases. For example, you can have all these warehouses of different companies that store dangerous goods, like you had in the Netherlands when 20 years ago the fireworks was blowing up. And you can even use a drone nowadays going over these warehouses, collecting some information. Even though the drones know what's in there, they're combining this information, and they're giving this information to everybody who is sharing this network, so they can make sure that there are no critical conditions for the goods being stored. So a case like in Lebanon could be avoided at all. And the question about mitigation, if something really happens, then immediately you have the information in place. What kind of goods are stored? So the fire workers, they know before they enter a building, hey, this is super dangerous. We need to be there first, or we are not even entering the building because this might be too dangerous. We need special kind of rescue equipment, all this kind of information. So I'm super excited about this project because I'm also learning a lot about what these companies are doing. And I'm even more convinced than I was 2 or 3 years ago that blockchain can be used for all these cases. And by the way, I'm also thinking about not only publishing academic research, but also publishing a paper for practitioners. And in this paper, I will also outline in very easy terms how blockchain can help in those cases. So that was a very long answer. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Professor Abla Chainyard.
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear fine. Yeah, now the connection is good. Yeah.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Professor Horst, for your excellent presentation, which is very clear and enriching. So I saw in the beginning of your presentation that you have published a book on blockchain in supply chain management. So I have a question here. So how to deal with the lack of enterprise, for example, ERP tools and support within existing systems, especially where most companies still operate rigid and they have structured systems that do not and cannot support blockchain technology.
Excellent question. By the way, the book was about blockchain use cases. The paper, supply chain management, was a conceptual one. And this is an excellent question because I was also active for a couple of years in the European Union in the ALICE project for better supply chain management. And we have two things here. We have the technology and we have the human factor. And from a technological perspective, it would be fairly easy to share data. That's the blockchain perspective. But you're absolutely right. Companies are not willing to share data. And this is one of the most, I would say, one of the biggest showstoppers in this. I would call it the contingency factor. And of course, there's nothing you can do about it from a technological IS perspective, other than at least allowing some views on the data. You know, you can clearly specify who is able to see what kind of data. And so we have everything that technology can do, but then we have the real world situation where companies are saying, I'm not stupid, I'm not sharing any data with my competitors, I'm not going to do this. And of course, this is not something you can easily solve. And I know of some big supply chain management projects where you have blockchain technology, it's a silver bullet, it's a savior, and then many companies are skeptical about joining that network because they are afraid that their companies or competitors are going to spy on them. But again, those are two completely different topics. What can I do with technology, and can I really do it, because is it going to be accepted? Excellent question. Thank you for that.
Yes, of course, this is the big challenge. So second question, please. So you know that in the 21st century, they have most number of technological advancements in the entire history of mankind. So many people, most of them assume that Bitcoin and blockchain can be the same. So clearly it is not the case. So please, can you just give me the particularity of each one, just to make the difference between them and to know when we can apply each one?
Oh, you mean the difference between Bitcoin and blockchain?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I did not go into much detail because I assume all of you have some a certain level of technical knowledge, but of course, this is a very important topic because Bitcoin is just one application of the blockchain. So strictly speaking, blockchain, many people think Bitcoin was the first blockchain application, but that's not even true. In the 1900s and the 90s, the cryptologist Haber and Stonetta came up with an idea of creating data blocks, and they published it in the New York Times in a newspaper. So from the 1990s on, you can find in the New York Times some very weird code. It's just connected data block from each week to the other. Bitcoin was an application of blockchain. It came up in 2009. At first, people didn't take notice, but then later on, it became synonymous with blockchain, but it's not. So blockchain is the underlying technology, and Bitcoin uses a permission and public permissionless and public blockchain. It has some very specific features. It uses something that's called the Nakamoto consensus. So it's one type of blockchain technology, one type of distributed database. But you can use distributed databases for many different purposes, and all of them have different features. So for example, if you have blockchain in a supply chain management, then most likely you have a completely different solution. It's a little bit hard to describe it in 1 minute or so, but you can think of different word processing systems. You have LaTeX and you have Microsoft Word, and they work differently, you know, but they have something in common, but many things are really different. And the blockchain solution that Mynxg is using for IoT is conceptually very, very different from Bitcoin. So don't let it confuse. And just because Bitcoin is not legal in one country or the other, it doesn't mean that distributed databases are not legal.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you.
And welcome again among us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking these questions.
Another question, Abdelmoula Doudi, please.
Hello, do you hear me?
I can hear you fine, yes.
Thank you for this presentation. So it's very, very interesting. I am talking about myself, so I didn't know very much about blockchain. So thank you for this. I have two short questions. First one, it's not like a question, just a request for more clarification about the application of blockchain in the German company, in the chemical company, like a distributed database for IoT application. I just to know if it's possible to clarify better what is the difference between using blockchain and using normal data storage or cloud storage, which are actually used in many companies. So why this company used blockchain especially? Is it a cost benefits? Is it a reliability of the database, or what are the benefits exactly? And the second question
thank you very
is
much.
To the
Yeah,
first one.
if I had known, or it's a second question.
Yeah.
Okay, then thank you very much. First of all, I was not sure how much knowledge you have about blockchain. And I needed to keep to 30 minutes. If I've known that, then I would have gone a little bit more into detail. My Mynxg, and again, I'm not a member of them. I just talked a lot to them. They're providing industry solutions. So they are mainly in the chemical industry, but they can use their solution also for other kinds of industries. And one advantage of a decentralized solution is, for example, that you have data availability at different places. If you have a centralized solution, there's always one kind of server, or could it be in the cloud or something like that. And if something happens, maybe you can change data later on or things like that. You're never sure what's going to happen with the data. But if it's decentralized, it's auditable, which means that you can trust that it's not going to be tampered with. And one interesting use case they told me, it's about this access control. Let's say really something is happening, some kind of event is being triggered, and then with blockchain, you can immediately change the permissions for people. Then you can allow people to enter a certain part of the building, for example. And this is something you cannot easily do with a centralized database, because then you have different data, different sites, you create an event, and then you can on the fly change the permissions. And the blockchain solution is also very unique in that it allows for a huge amount of data being stored because it's machinery data. And that makes also the analysis much faster. If you like, you can easily search for them on the internet, Mynxg, Mynxg, and on the website you will find more information. If you're interested, I could also get you in contact with them. But here I don't have that much time, but I'm always asking the question like you were asking, why not having something that's centralized? And they gave me a couple of very convincing answers for that. And again, it's all sharing about information. Just think about auditability. If you have data in one place, it's not so easy to audit because you can change it somehow. But if you have distributed, then you can also analyze it on the fly, and it will be much more trustable for auditing purposes. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. It's clear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope so. And again, I like the skiing application a lot because they take exactly the same technology. Then you're going, I'm not sure if you're skiing. I think you can ski in Morocco on the Atlas Mountains. Then you're going skiing, you have a cell phone with you, you register, nothing of your data is shared. Just when an accident happens, then because it's decentralized information, this information will be available to the rescue team, and hopefully they find you in time.
Thank you. Another question, Adam Hamoumi, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear and I can also see you. Hello.
Okay, hello. So thank you very much, Professor, for this very interesting presentation. I'm a PhD student at University Paris-Saclay. So I have a very broad and wide question. And I think that the way that AI has revolutionized has been a revolution for every domain, since we can apply it practically on every domain right now with the techniques of deep learning, etc. I want to know the position of the big countries like the GAFAM, Google, Facebook, etc. from this blockchain technology, because I suspect maybe that will be the next revolution in terms of storage and exchange of data. And then because these people have the biggest R&D projects and groups everywhere. So if they concentrate, or if they got interested to the blockchain, I guess that the transition to this technology will be very fast. So this is my question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent question. So we need to differentiate a couple of applications. Let's go back to the first online blockchain application, Bitcoin. Bitcoin is completely decentralized. Everything is in the code. You cannot change it anymore unless you make a big fork. So the big companies like Google, Microsoft, they cannot interfere with that. So Bitcoin is really decentralized, but then the governments comes into place. I know it's not legal in Morocco, it's legal in Austria, but tomorrow the government in Austria can decide that Bitcoin is also legal here. That's one way how you can prevent it. But again, Bitcoin, you cannot stop it, even if you're a big company. Okay. But of course, companies can make their own solutions. I'm sure you have heard about the Facebook Libra project. Facebook wanted to create their own digital asset. I'm not calling it a cryptocurrency, but it's still under discussion. You know, a big company comes around and doing exactly the same as Bitcoin is doing in a way, but now you have a centralized solution. All this data is available. And of course, this is very, very attractive to big companies and even to states. States coming now up with their own central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, and that's, you know, from a philosophical point of perspective, that's exactly the opposite of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is completely decentralized. You are pseudonymous, so people do not know who you are. And if you have a central bank issuing a currency, then it's completely transparent, of course. And that's a philosophical debate, and it's the same technology. And you're absolutely right. Big companies like Facebook, they see, oh, we have a huge potential here with cryptocurrencies. Let's use the technology, but let's forget about the anonymity. And most likely people are going to use it. And but this has nothing to do with industry applications, but it's, you know, big banks like consulting house like JP Morgan. So publicly for a long time, they said Bitcoin is bad. And in the back, they were creating their own blockchain technologies, their own currencies. So they take the technology and they put it to use. And yeah, if it's for the good or the bad, it's a little bit hard to say. China's currently building this social credit scoring system, you know, where a lot of what people do is being tracked and traced, and you can use it for creating social credits. So if you have behavior that's in line with what the state wants, you're getting more social credits. And is it good or bad? I'm not here to judge that, you know, but it's traceability. You can use blockchain for complete transparency, or you can use it also for creating anonymity. And that's the weird part about it, you know. But if we talk about industry applications, it's much less sensitive. Normally, it's not a public blockchain, and you store industry data. So we are storing some kind of state of machinery. So that's not so sensitive as your COVID-19 status, for example. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we have one last question. And thank you for being friendly and answering all these questions.
Yeah, thank you for answering questions. It's always, and I'm sorry for the interruption. I think I must have been gone for 10 minutes or so, right?
No, it's not bad.
Okay.
Thank you for being here. Professor, Tawfiq? Yes.
I can see you. I can hear you.
Me?
Yes, everything's fine now.
Okay. Professor Horst, I introduce myself. I'm Tawfiq Masroor, the General Chair of this conference, and I'm really, really very happy to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for being with us, and thank you very much for your very, very interesting presentation. I think there is no doubt for what I understand that blockchain and IA can do great things together. Okay, I have not really a question I ask, but maybe I don't know if you have any idea on the contribution of IA or what you believe IA can bring to the blockchain in the modeling area. I'm mostly thinking about multi-agent system learning by themselves, especially thinking of deep reinforcement learning. For example, agents to model new generation wireless networks, and we can also integrate human agents and other agents. For example, in the event of disaster or natural condition, or in buildings or factories that are in difficult situations, to simulate and establish secure and decentralized resource sharing environments in order to solve problems with uncertain, time varying and complex functionality. I say this because one of the big problems in this kind of situations is modeling complex environments. And I believe that IA has a huge potential to fix that. So I believe that really IA and blockchain can really do great things together.
Thank you, Professor Masroor. I believe the same thing, and I'm not an expert in AI. You know, I don't have much time to dig deeper, but I have basic understanding about what deep learning and things like can do. But it's exactly what you said. AI is really good in detecting patterns and coming up with some new information. Then you can use blockchain for data security or storage availability. So those are not competing technologies, but if you combine them in a reasonable way, that's absolutely fascinating. And just the little bit of research I did for this presentation and what I found out about AI being used for disaster detection or just figuring out by analyzing the ashes of volcanoes to predict some eruptions, that's pretty amazing stuff. And I was not even aware of that. And this is definitely something I'm going to dig deeper in the future. So I'm completely in agreement with you that this will be a fruitful combination. Hopefully we can use it to create some benefits for the industry and for mankind.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
So thank you. We are really delighted to have you with us, Professor Horst. It's really fascinating what technology and video conference bring to us. Thank you very much for being friendly and answering all these questions. I know you don't have much time.
No, that's fine. Today is Saturday, so I don't have any appointments after that.
We really hope we could invite you here in Morocco for the next edition of our conference.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to do that. I don't have much of a travel budget, I have to say, but I love these online events. You know, that's the positive side of COVID. So especially when it's online, I'm always happy to join events. Yesterday, I joined a couple of sessions. Today, unfortunately, I have to leave at around noon, but I have plenty of time now. But I would love to stay in contact. And if anyone has some great ideas on how you could bring AI knowledge and I could bring in blockchain knowledge, that would be amazing.
Yes, thank you very much. And now we have another sessions for all attendees. You can see the Google Meet link in the chat, and we will be glad to have you again in these sessions. Thank you all.
Thank you again for having me, and thank you for joining this session and asking all these questions.
Thank you. Goodbye, Professor. Thank you.
Goodbye.